2 weeks, people. 2 weeks. Notice this is actually happening. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 89th episode of the longest tenured Denver Nuggets spin-off podcast in the world. Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets' Serbian Corner. My name is Miroslav, and since we haven't seen each other for 2 weeks, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I'll just pretend those losses to the Suns and Timberwolves didn't happen, and I'll just jump straight into the last week behind us. So, it was the Cleveland Cavaliers that came to town on Easter, bringing their incredible Twin Tower lineup of Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley to combat the best player in the world, but got whooped by the said player who recorded a stat line previously achieved only by the Big O Oscar Robertson, 26, 18, and 16 from the behemoth from Sombor. You don't get to 16 assists if your guys are not hitting their shots. It was 21 threes and a bunch of dunks and layups, to be precise. KCP and Reggie Jackson were flamethrowers. Christian Brown was awesome, and AG and MPJ chipped in too. It was a great collective performance for a 30-point win. A great collective game overcame Jamal's fifth game missed in a row at that point. 2 days later, the San Antonio Spurs came to town. Jeremy Sohan and Devin Vassell were ruled out for the season. Keldon Johnson also didn't play, but the mile-high audience got the chance to see Wemby one last time this season. And of course, it was a sloppy defensive effort from the Nuggets. And considering how many shots the Spurs missed late in the fourth quarter, I'd say that might be their last win against Wemby with such an effort level. He's just going to become better and will probably have better teammates around him next time. Anyway, I mentioned that it is easy to tally 16 assists when your guys are making shots. The same goes for when your guys are missing everything. Just 6 assists for Jokic in this game, but among those were a touchdown pass to Justin Holiday 3 and also a lob from beyond the arc for an Aaron Gordon dunk. Aaron was excellent in this game, by the way. Other than that, we've seen a lot of post-ups for Jokic in this game, just like versus the Cavs. So I guess he is ramping up for the playoffs. 42 points, matching his season high. Christian Brown was pretty good as a backup point guard in this game, with 7 assists to his name. It was the 6th consecutive Jamal Murray's missed game, so I felt a mix of concern and annoyance. 2 days later, a one-off trip to California to meet the Los Angeles Clippers. The good guys started great and had a double-digit lead in the first, lost it all in the non-Jokic minutes in the second, but then Ty Lue used the genius tactic of sending PJ Tucker to clubber Jokic nonstop and not get called for that, so he successfully took him off his 20-point first half rhythm. It was a super close game at the end, and Nikola's last-second prayer from the right wing didn't get in. It was Jamal's 7th missed game in a row, and now it feels like I'm hammering a point of some sort. Finally, last night, the Atlanta Hawks came to town. Jamal returned, looked rough, but also had some amazing moves. Zeke Naji also returned after the extended leave due to injury and looked pretty good. Mike was very physical and completely compensated for Aaron Gordon getting a rest game in this one. Nikola scored 19 points, as many as Clint Capella, so that matchup continues to live, right? Oh, and Nikola also had a triple-double, 25th of this season. Still pedestrian compared to last year when he had 29. Reggie was the one that gained the most from Jamal returning. He finally got more minutes to play against the opposing bench and excelled. KCP continues with his scorching hot spring, 6 of 9 from deep, so he is now 50 of 105 since the All-Star break, which is good for 47.6% since the break. My biggest takeaway, though, was Justin Holiday having the time of his life. 8 points, nothing to write home about, but 6 assists, and some of those were splendid, and plus 17 in less than 24 minutes. The champs are back as the top seed in the West with 4 games to go. Can they hold to it? Should they try to? Let's find out. Okay, that's enough of a recap of the week. It is time for my guest to enter the Studio P. I usually have relevant people to talk about the Nuggets on these shows, but from time to time, I'll reach out to one of my friends instead. My guest for today is a podcaster, a blog boy, a true citizen of the world, and also has some guitars in his background. I'm happy to finally get some airtime for him this week. It's Adam Mares.
What an introduction, Miroslav. Thank you so much. Definitely a blog boy. Also, look at us dressed the exact same today.
Yeah, you do have a lot of images in a plain white shirt. It seems to be your favorite look.
It's a simple look. Also, I have to switch. I have to be over here. I'm over here on every show. I can't not be over here. So I got to get over here.
Yeah, you should have done that for the fourth segment when you're hosting. It feels weird now. I am a host here, so yeah. What you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
So the idea I came up with for today's show is to join creative forces, or to call it for what it is, making you come up with half of the show today unprompted. So I will call this show 5 questions for Adam and Miroslav.
Okay.
I'm not sure we'll be able to squeeze all 5 questions for both of us in an hour, but we'll see. So let's keep it Nuggets themed for a couple of segments, and then we can move to life, philosophy, music, movies, nocturnal birds. Yeah, keep it to nocturnal today. Okay, so the first question for you today. So Michael Porter already played 2,445 minutes this season, which is not only the most in his career, but also 24th most in the entire league. This is his second straight healthy season, and by the way, the most consistent season from him so far. So he is showing improvement in all the facets of the game. So tell me if this season, in your opinion, change your opinion on his ceiling as a player.
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so, it's not necessarily a bad thing. The improvements you're talking about to me are margins, and they are things about understanding your role and acceptance of your role and understanding how to maximize your talents within that role. But they're not necessarily ceiling raising skills. To me, when you talk about a player skilling, it's a skill or ceiling, it almost seems more about, can this player grow out of the role and into something else? And for me, I think with Michael Porter, he is going to be in this role, and whatever improvements he makes as a player and has made this year, they're really going to be more limited to that, at least in Denver. And I think probably even if he were to leave Denver, I think it's more or less, I feel like I can see what he is and what he will be at his best.
So we've seen him in what, like 75 games already this season. I would say he was great in like 60 of them.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. You think it's too high of a number?
I think it's too high of a number but I think that has more to do with like human psychology. Like if you told me Jokic, I think Jokic has been good in 60 of 72 or whatever he's played in this year, so I think it is high, but I think the sentiment remains the same, that I think he has been by far more good than bad, and he's been great, probably even more than he has been bad.
Yeah. I've seen a nice clip from Hardwood Knocks a couple of days ago when Grant Hughes mentioned Michael Porter, describing him as an alien from a movie Alien, or xenomorph from the movie Alien. You know that one. It's not a Marvel movie, so you should know it. So he said that, okay, the Nuggets are like a xenomorph, but then if you hurt xenomorph, it bleeds acid blood. Like it still hurts you, even though you thought you finally got him. And that's Michael Porter adding points on top of what the Nuggets are capable of doing. What do you think is his ceiling in these playoffs outside of his role? What do you see of him doing outside of his role? in a series of sort.
Well, first of all, I love the metaphor because I do think that's exactly what Michael Porter is. You can stop Michael Porter, but it comes at a cost. That cost is the spacing for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. I think most teams go the other direction. They would rather stop Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray and at the expense of allowing Michael Porter to get loose from three. So his game, often the most important thing is, does he knock down? He's going to get 6 or 7 threes in a game, maybe 8, 9, 10 in a playoffs. How many of those does he knock down? And when I think of his ceiling in terms of impact in the playoffs, there are games where I feel Michael Porter could go 7 of 10 from three. You know, if you gave him 5 A+ looks, like he just rotated over and he was the guy open, and then you gave him 5 not so great looks and he just happens to make 7 out of the 10 of those, or 6 out of the 10, or sometimes even 5 out of the 10. I don't think the bar's that high for Michael Porter to have a game where you're not beating Denver because of Porter had that. I think the number is about 5. If he gets 10 threes and he goes 5 of 10, Denver's winning those games at like a 98% clip. If he goes 4 of 10, they're probably winning them at an 80% clip. And if he goes 3 of 10, it's almost like par. Let's see whatever else happens. I think he's capable of having a game or two where he makes 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And what those games do is they stick in your mind so heavily that it affects every other decision you make downstream. If he has a game that's 7 of 10 from three in game number 1, Nuggets win by 25 points. Doesn't matter if he goes 0 of 10 in the next game, the team is saying, we're not leaving him. We're not leaving him, like whatever our strategy is. So to me, that's the impact. And if you talk about the other parts of it and why you should be higher on Denver or higher on Michael Porter specifically, it's just defensively. Is he a guy that is, and we've already seen this, where teams have gone away from the Michael Porter adjustment. We're going to attack him. We're going to put him in these roles. They go away from that and say, okay, he's too good at that. I still think there's teams that are going to target him and attack him. There's specific teams that are more capable of doing just that. But maybe this playoffs is the one where even that strategy ends up being a losing battle and teams waste a whole game thinking their game plan is to attack MPJ, and it ends up being wrong and they lose.
Do you think he's going to have a longer leash on defense comparing to previous seasons in playoffs? Like if he's getting targeted, does Malone give him a couple of more possessions of trust?
The thing is, I think he has a longer leash for mistakes. You know, you blew an assignment, you missed the rotation or whatever, but targeted is different. Targeted is, oh, there's something you're not capable of doing. And I'll just put it on the table. It's pick and roll defense as the ball handler. And Denver can be pretty good about keeping him out of those positions. And it's hard sometimes for teams to go right at him. And he has the length that there's certain types of pick and roll players that just can't take advantage of that because they're too small. And even when he gets dies on a screen or whatever, he recovers and it can challenge, and there's different things you can do. But there are some players and some teams, and Dallas is one of them, that I think would probably say, yeah, we're going to get him in pick and roll, and Luka's going to attack that pick and roll with him coming off of a screen because Luka's too big for him. Luka, if he gets him on his hip, Luka just doesn't feel him anymore. It's like, I'm not even afraid of this. I'm going to bump him off and get to wherever I want to go. So I think there are teams that would do that, and he won't. It's not that he will have a short leash. It's that it's not about him trying or making mistakes. It's okay. That's a weakness, and they're able to exploit it. So we're going to have to go to these other. We're going to have to be careful about what minutes he plays.
Last question about Michael Porter. I watched every game, but I do it once. I rarely do it twice. Maybe if it's an awesome game, so I want to rewatch something, I'll do segments of the games. But you watch most games at least twice with the synergy and all the shiny tools you have to. Tell me, is it anecdotal that Michael is passing up more shots than before? Meaning, like, you can see him a lot of times when he's not, when he sees there's like 9 seconds to the end of the shot clock, right, and he's not in the ideal position, he'll just try to find a better position guy. Is this something he do more often than before?
I don't think so. Or I think so. I think you're 100% onto it. He definitely seems to know what a good shot is and what a bad shot is. And I don't know if there's like a way to quantify this. I was just like, while you were talking, trying to look up a quick statistic, because to me, it seems like he's taking more of his shots are wide open or open shots, like, and not forcing some of the other ones. I'll say this, it's a double-edged sword. And we could very well look back at this season with Michael Porter as we looked back on LeBron James's 2013 season. It was such a fascinating year for me because LeBron cut out every three that wasn't catch and shoot. it was almost like he had a few pull-up three-pointers, and he cut out mid-range and he cut out pull-up three-pointers. And I don't remember what the exact numbers were, but it was overwhelming, and it was by far his most efficient season. But that wasn't a final endpoint. It was almost like he was shrinking so that he can grow on top of it. And my hope is that's what Michael Porter this year represents for him. He's passing up bad shots. He's playing within the flow. He's earning the trade, all these different things, and really solidifying what is and what is not a good shot. But I hope he adds a couple forced threes, especially off of dribble handoffs, back into his rotation next year. It's probably too late to want to change anything this year, but I hope next year that's something he adds back into his arsenal, because like with Steph Curry or Klay Thompson, there is a hidden secret bonus you get when great shooters are willing to take bad shots, and that is that defenses panic. He's passing those up because they are bad shots, but I do think he's a great bad shot maker, and I think there are very specific ones he can add to his repertoire that Denver as a team can learn to expect from him. Like, that's a bad shot, but we know he always takes that one coming off the dribble handoff, and he makes it at 40%, so it's not even a bad shot. And when the team expects it, then it becomes a good shot, and I think he can get there next year.
We're getting philosophical too early in the show, but I cannot resist. What do you think is the thought process in like side helpers' mind when the Nuggets have scored like 5 consecutive times out of pick and roll?
Yeah.
And then one of the guys needs to help off Michael Porter and KCP. What is their thought process during those minutes?
I mean, I have to imagine this is why the finale oop was such a great thing to happen. I mean, it's only happened 2 times, but it's this season, but it's why it's so great is every defense makes that calculation of, I know leaving this guy, whether it's AG in the dunker spot or KCP and MPJ in the corners, I know it's bad, but they're scoring when I don't do the bad thing. So maybe I try the bad thing. I just think it's as simple as that. It's teams. And sometimes in the playoffs, this is more of a call, like a player will know, hey, we're not leaving the corners. And they just scored 5 times in a row, but we're not leaving it unless the coach tells me I'm leaving it. But I think that there is a moment's not like that. There's this, I'm staying home and it's not working. So why don't I try something else, even if it doesn't make logical sense? And then, of course, I will say, I think it's the best. Somebody was asking me the other day, what's the best way to beat Denver? I think trying to get really physical with Jokic is step number 1 every time. Just try to get physical with him. And if you get away with it, there's something that happens with Nikola that I think he's gotten better never at keeping his temper down and everything, but it clearly bothers him and takes him a little bit out mentally from his focus. That's step number 1. I think step number 2 is probably you got to mix up coverage, but I would err on the side of forcing the passes out to your shooters, just because that one is much more of a, Michael Porter sometimes goes 2 of 10, 3 of 10 or whatever, and that's your best bet, whereas Nikola never goes 2 of 10. So you might as well like rely on somebody else to have a cold night.
Yeah. Turning Nikola Jokic into a scorer is shown as not the greatest of strategies. And yeah, I would
do it though for 3 quarters. If I were guarding Denver, I would make Jokic a scorer for 3 quarters and then aggressively trap him in the 4th.
Can you keep it down, man? Like people are listening to this. Like there might be scouts out there. Okay, it is time for our first break, and then we'll go into some possibly less nice things to talk about. Don't go anywhere. What a tease. Okay, we are back. Let's open a can of worms now. So availability is a skill that is more important than ever in the NBA. Gary Harris wasn't a part of the championship run because of it, and Will Barton too. Both of those guys were good enough to be here during the championship run, in my honest opinion, but they had been, if they had been available in more key moments. Barton actually probably shortened his NBA career by trying to come back too soon from his injuries. Jamal Murray hasn't played in more than 65 regular season games since 2018-2019. And that's not very far away from Bradley Beal's availability, for instance. It seems from the outside that he's making sure he's not returning from his injuries too soon. But are you worried about his durability in these playoffs and also going forward? I
am worried about his durability going into the playoffs. And just to set the record straight, so nobody misunderstands my position on Jamal, because I have a lot of thoughts on him. I don't think he should come back from even this injury too soon. I don't think that he is sitting out games that he is healthy to play. I don't think he is faking injuries. I think he is actually injured. The question I always have is why? And I think it's an important question to ask, not necessarily that I have the answer for it, but whenever players are hurt, somewhat frequently, you ask why is it that the guy keeps getting hurt? Why is it that he seems to always have these, quote unquote, slow starts and hasn't made an all-star team? And we thought this year is like, if you remember, Miroslav, let's rewind 6 months. Coming into it, I went on Zach Lowe's show in the offseason. I think it was a month before training camp began. It was a little early, but I went on a show and he said, Murray has to do the bare minimum this year to be an all-star. Like, it's going to be easy. He's a lock. Just lock him in. Like, as long as he has any type of regular, average season or something. And then you come into it and you realize, like, no, that's not true at all, because it's almost, it's so underwhelming, what the level of play he has there. And again, I think Jamal Murray's been very good this year, probably his best year, but I'm just saying that we expected maybe this, like, we expected the playoff version of him to enter the regular season, and that hasn't happened any year that he's played. So I say all that to say, I'm worried about him because he's been hurt a handful of times this year, and because he is only going to have now 5 games ramp up towards the playoffs. So I worry about his health and his durability there. But I think there is a larger question that is just, it's important to play 70 games. It's important, I think, just to Nikola Jokic that he doesn't feel like he has to play 77 games every single year. And by the way, 40 minutes a night in the final month of the season, like kind of pushing himself. Aaron Gordon, same thing. So I don't think you can just sit out and point the finger and blame him and say this or that. I think you can talk about it as a thing that will have consequences if it continues every single year, and might even have consequences this year.
Ooh, you're coming in hotter than I am. But yeah, I think you're completely right. It's just that, first of all, we have to be honest and say that there's not a huge number of super durable guys in the league. Like super durable guys in the
durable
league. If we talk about top level guys, you have a bunch of guys missing a lot of games. For instance, you could say that Milwaukee Bucks had only one great championship run because Chris Middleton just wasn't available after that one. I mean, of sure there are some caveats to that championship run, but I don't want to be an asshole at this moment. And
no, I think it's very fair. No, great players like Jokic got swept. Jokic lost in 5. Like when he didn't have Jamal, it doesn't mean that Jokic wasn't ready for the moment or any of this. It's that great teams, to win a championship, you require other great players to help you out along the way. It's just no secret. No player has ever won a title without it. And Middleton's a really good player. And you're right. He was at his best in the year that Giannis made it out.
Yeah. So we want for our guys to have the extended run of championship tries, to have good chances of winning championship in the next 4 or 5 years. But you really need some super durable guys to do that. So, we might completely laugh at this sentiment in a month when Denver is crushing everybody, and we'll just say, what the hell were we talking about previously? But
I think we will, by the way. I actually think that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, of course. But knock on wood. But on the other side, you just need to be aware that, okay, Michael Porter has missed 1, played 2, missed 1, played 2. We hope he'll continue his healthy run. It's just that, Aaron Gordon is getting bumps and bruises all the time, playing super physical. Nikola Jokic is a tank for now. We don't know that. We don't know for how many years he'll be able to sustain this superhuman level of durability. I mean, we always talk about how important Jamal is to the team because they're not winning without Jamal. Yeah, but we have a big sample of team playing without Jamal. So this is why we speak about it so often. God forbid we get a big sample of not playing with Nikola on a team. That would be probably disastrous. So yeah, I just wanted to address this because I did get a bit frustrated in the last couple of weeks, and I agree with your sentiment. It's better be safe than sorry. I hope Jamal is feeling better now and will be feeling much better in 2 weeks' time. Not because I'm coming to the States. It's because they're actually starting playing playoff basketball.
They're so good with Jamal. I mean, Jamal's such a great player. I think my thing with sports in general is that they serve this important purpose. There's several important purposes in a society, in addition to just entertaining us wildly. But there is something inspirational that you get from watching a great player reach their best or any competitor push themselves to their absolute limits. And to me, the NBA has become this science in a way that I think is unhealthy because it overlooks the other part of it, which is sometimes you have to say, screw the science. Like, these guys are in a foxhole together. They're trying to survive an 82 game season, and it requires everybody kind of pulling their weight. And again, his injuries, I don't doubt any of his injuries this year. And I don't doubt his toughness. I don't doubt any of those things. The question is, what does it take? Like Michael Porter this year has talked about how proud he is of playing the games that he's played. That was a goal of his, and he set out to do it. I want it to be a goal of Jamal's of, hey, I want to not only be available for 75 games in a season, but I want to be good. I want to be like a guy that carried him, for a large majority of those. And, maybe it is a goal and it has just come up short because the basketball gods have cursed him in a way. So maybe that's it. But my hope is that that becomes a goal for him because I think it's an important one.
And he has time to let's be just vulgar at the moment, to build up his body to be able to sustain more load. He's still just like 26, so he has the run in front of him to be able to do that.
Well,
He's
let's be
like
honest
30,
too,
34.
Miroslav. Well, I'll think about this one though. This next year is a big one for this very thing because, I think Yoke's going to play in the Olympics regardless of what happens in this playoffs. I think he will. But Jamal probably will try to play too, by the way. I think he'll also probably try to play next year, not to get too far ahead of ourselves because there's a very important things that are right around the corner. But next year, I already worry about Denver and how they're going to get through an 82 game season. They're going to need help from a lot of places. But one of them is if you told me Jamal's only going to play 56 games next year, I'd be like, oh man, Nuggets are going to be an 8 seed. Like they're coming through the play-in next year if you get that same output.
Yeah, that would be tough. That would be tough. Next season is gonna be hell, especially if they go all the way to the finals. Yeah. That's a really short off season with Olympics included. Okay, let's get real philosophical now. So, what is your biggest challenge when talking about Nikola Jokic? When you talk about such a great player, you want not to repeat yourself. You want to find new ways to describe the ways he's growing. What's your thought process when you talk about him?
Honestly, it's easy for Yoke because he makes it so easy. He delivers nobody has ever delivered so consistently as Nikola has. And I even think in our previous conversation, part of what Jamal Murray suffers from is a comparison, whether intentional or not, is that you're just always comparing to a guy who so seldomly doesn't bring it or isn't available. But to me, it's actually not that hard. The hardest, if you ask me, like you started this by saying, what's the hardest thing? The hardest thing is that couching my opinion in a way so that I'm not getting ahead of myself or losing it, because I honestly think Nikola has reached a level that is as high as any player I've ever seen. But I also balance that with this understanding of talent and ability is not everything. It's what you do with that talent and ability. And Jokic so far has done great with it, has no complaints. But I don't want to say, oh, he's as good as LeBron or he's as good as this guy or that guy, because those guys both had the talent and then accomplished the thing. And for me with Nikola, it's hard because I want to get ahead of myself and say, no one's ever done this. This is better than I've ever seen. But you have to be like, all right, but I do think the accolades, the winning is the thing that validates what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's really difficult to compare a guy with somebody whose career is already over, or a guy that already has 20 seasons behind him, like LeBron. So maybe the trick would be to compare him to his, contemporaries like Giannis. Like Giannis is probably one of the top 20, 25 players of all time, according to most analysts.
I agree.
And you can slot Nikola in there. Milwaukee fans will tell you that Giannis is far superior player to Nikola, and
I think consensus is that Nikola is a superior player to Giannis right now.
Now it is. Now it is. Outside of Milwaukee, I think it is. So you can slot him over there somewhere between 20 and 15 probably already.
I
which
think
is
so.
incredible for a 29-year-old. But on the other hand, you can go in different direction. Go with Luka, who's been in the league
Yeah.
for like 3 seasons less and didn't accomplish much really outside of his insane individual stuff he did.
I think
He had
Luka is a perfect comparison to Jokic because Jokic
yes,
hadn't accomplished anything more than Luka had at the same point.
yeah, that's true. That's true. And okay, it's a segue. Do you believe Luka is the second best player in the world?
Man, that's tough.
So we're not talking about MVP. Screw
I
MVP.
know. You were talking about second best player. I think so. If you asked me, but when you say that, I almost feel like we're projecting forward rather than asking in this very moment, because what we're really saying is like in this playoff run, like is he poised to be the first or second best player in the league? And I would say I think so, but I think that I am aware that I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth when I put down Joel Embiid for all of his greatness and lack of accolades, and then building up Luka for the same thing. I think him and Embiid are at this very moment. If you told me that you look at them identically, I would say there's no evidence to say you were wrong, that those two guys have sort of similar, should be viewed as similar type guys. And then Giannis has proven it. So doesn't Giannis belong to have the benefit of the doubt and, all this other stuff? So I would say that if you ask me, I would say I think Luka is about to make that clear. But I would say at this very moment, there's no proof. There's only evidence that I'm right. And if you doubt Luka, you're wrong. Like I respect Matt Moore's take, right? This comes from Matt Moore. I respect Matt Moore's take on it about Luka. I think that it's a very fair one, and we're going to be betting on different sides of that going into the postseason.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I really want to give shout out to Matt Moore. Not that he needs it from me, but I have this small silly stat I call Mirostat, where I do the MVP candidates using a specific formula. So I did it completely on Matt's more elaborate of MVP. So what he is interested in is how many wins does your team have with you on the court? What's your net rating? Not net rating swing. He doesn't care about how bad your team is without you, just how good it is with you. And then the box plus minus. This is from me. I think box plus minus describes really well the per minute production and efficiency from players. And when I multiply all of those in a certain formula, I get, of course, Nikola Jokic at number one by a wide margin. He's like at 76, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is actually still number two at 50. And then there's Luka at 45, and Giannis 42, and then you go all the way to 33 to Tatum, 25 Leonard, 24 LeBron. So do you think this order is something that we can expect on the ballots, like Nikola, Shai, Luka, Giannis, Tatum?
I think there's a chance Luka passes Shai. I mean, just because he's been so spectacular. I mean, here's the thing. People, I think, often conflate. There's two fallacies that I see in how people analyze the NBA currently. One has always been this way, and that is spectacular does not always mean good. And players who are spectacular, it feels like it's. This is why people say Jokic's the best player, but he's not the most dominant. What they're really saying is spectacular, and there's this spectacularness to a guy dunking on you or shooting a fall away three that feels inevitable. And I think that is a flaw, like a cognitive flaw or a logical flaw. It actually doesn't mean what people think it means. And then the metrics, the on-off stuff, while I think it is clearly important and there is a history to show a lot of these things as important, I think it is growing every year increasingly unimportant. And we can see evidence for this just when we look at the numbers. How many teams have the greatest offensive rating in the history of the game this season? Like, was that 2017 Warriors team that had Kevin Durant would come in like 19th in offense this year? Like, clearly some things have changed. And another thing that has changed is variance. And I think players like Luka and like Nikola, because of how well they can control the game, they control it in both a slow pace, both of them in a slow pace and a very slow half-court deliberate game. that the variance is just going to be different. So when you look at Boston, who does the opposite of this, and you see, oh my God, they're winning by a margin that's greater than it. They're the third greatest team. Nobody thinks this Boston team's the third greatest team to ever play the game. Like, come on. Maybe they go through a crazy playoff run and validate it, but I would bet against that based on their recent history even. And I just think there's something to, okay, the variance with the 3-point game and the way the modern game has evolved has lessened the predictive value of those metrics now, the on-off or the just plain net rate. And this guy, when he's on the court, do they win by a lot or a little? Do they win every time? Like when Nikola's on the court, they win every time. It doesn't matter if they win by 15 or they win by 4. They always win because he's controlling things, and that's how it works. So that's why those two things that you just brought up about, that maybe diminished Luka, I just think both of them are especially flawed in today's weird NBA that I don't think people acknowledge enough how weird it is.
Okay, let's take one more short break, and then I have only one more Nuggets question before we completely go into lunacy after that one. Don't go anywhere. Okay, we're back. Now, I don't know. I'm just reading my questions to you. It seems like I had a very dark week behind me. I don't know. Maybe I was just tired while writing these. But what would need to happen? What would need to happen apart from health issues for the Nuggets to certainly be stopped in these playoffs?
From health issues or outside of health issues?
Outside of health issues. Like what's the one thing that could completely stop them from any side?
I will say that I think the depth issue is real. Like Denver is going to play their guys a lot of minutes. And by the way, Miroslav, one thing to think about, teams do play better desperate. And I think Denver had a good sense of urgency last year about them. But I think there's also another level you can tap into. And we saw this from Denver in previous iterations, that they can tap into it. And one of the areas where they could go to is, does Nikola ever play a game with 45 minutes, 46 minutes? Like, does Malone just say, we're not going to the non-Jokic minutes tonight. We're just going to play him. And the only time he rests are these little pockets where it's like, oh, defensive possession, pull him out. I think that's very possible this year if Denver gets into a tight spot and their bench is underperforming, that you get into an elimination game and Malone says, need you for all 48 tonight. And that solves a bench issue. But nonetheless, I think bench issues are a part of it. Number two, I would say fatigue, which is last year, it's underrated that they won in 5, 6, 4, and 5. They never were, I don't think, very tired. They're very tired right now, more probably than they were at this point last year. And I don't know if they're going to win in 5 in round 1 this year. There's some teams I think they would, but there's some teams that I look at that and I go, yeah, that's probably more 6 than it is 5 or maybe even 7. And you start to get into those and it just adds up. You wear down. You're not fresh. So I think that would be another area that you look at and say, a team in baseball, there's this idea of just keep fouling it to make the pitcher throw more pitches, because a pitcher only has a certain amount of pitches in him before his arm falls off. And if you just keep hitting foul balls, the pitcher has to keep throwing. I think there's something too. If I'm a team, I'm like, we got to make Denver work. We got to pressure Murray. We might get killed in game 1 because Murray beat the press and they got easy buckets, but wear him down, get physical, and make this extend to 6, 7 games, because they're going to get tired and be less than what they are.
I think that's an excellent point about fatigue. If they would play a first round in 7 games, that would be really difficult, because you cannot imagine having easier series after the first one. So, I mean,
I think you could.
It's a possibility, but this is where I get to my second question is, which team do you think is more built for a longer series comparing to Denver Nuggets in the West? I don't want to talk about the Eastern teams because we know it's going to beat Miami, so who cares?
Which teams are built for a longer series, you're saying?
Yeah.
So I'll start with the team that I'm worried about that I don't think is built for a long series, and that's Phoenix. I think Phoenix is a team that could beat you in 5 or 6 because they got really hot in those games. I don't know that they're a team that's going to have like a ton of adjustments and really wear you down. So I fear Phoenix, but I fear them more that Devin Booker had 50 in game 1 and Kevin Durant had 49 in game 2 and Bradley Beal hit 9 threes in game 3. Like that's their formula, is they just have they have enough guys that can have a hot shooting night. The teams that I think can really wear you down with adjustments and physicality, The Timberwolves, no question about it. They're physical, they're tough. The games are going to be a slog. You're not going to have these like 18-0 runs, I don't think, against Minnesota. You're going to have to fight for every little margin. And I think that they have personnel to make adjustments and do different things.
But what about Mike Conley and his conditioning in a seven game series? He's a really important guy for them.
I don't think I worry about his conditioning. I mean, I think he's like a well-conditioned athlete, and I think they play a style. I don't know that game would be a up and down exhaustive game. I think it would be more of a elbows and bruises exhaustive game or series. So I think he would be fine. I mean, who knows? They could make adjustments. It's weird when you talk about adjustments and different things. The Warriors are a team that I don't think is going to make it out of the play-in, but they are a team that is just very smart. Like, they've been through it. The same thing I always say about Denver is they've already seen everything. Draymond and Clay and Steph have seen everything. Even Andrew Wiggins has seen everything, that they're at least capable of making it. They're like the Miami Heat in that way. They're capable of, we have a 5-game, 6-game series. We're going to have 6 game plans and we're going to implement them. Golden State is a team that has that, and they have Steph Curry, who can always get hot. And then Dallas, again, Dallas is another team to me. One of the reasons I buy them, I've really evaluated them. You follow me on all the various shows, Miroslav. There's a consistent way I analyze playoffs. Do teams have adjustments? Do they have versatility? And do they have enough options in there? And I just look at Dallas and I go, they have a style they prefer, and they have 10 different options in that style. That's a recipe for playoff success, in my opinion. So they're another team that I could see having multiple game plans. I don't know if they would, but they could have multiple game plans that they throw at Denver that just keeps Denver guessing and having to adjust themselves.
Is there a way to make Dallas not super efficient in the playoffs with Luka at the helm? Or is it just you just need to be more efficient than them?
So what's funny about this is I actually think Nikola is a good defensive big for Dallas's pick and roll.
Yeah.
Like, he blows up a lot of that, like, because Luka's not a turn the corner quickly and get to the rim guy. He's more of a craft guy, and Jokic is a craft defender. So it's kind of strength for strength in the pick and roll. So that would be it. That would need to be a phenomenal defensive series for Nikola. And then I think equally as important, there's always two things. And this is one thing I worry about Malone. Malone loves to adjust to your adjustment. And I think that sometimes the best way to beat a team is just to bludgeon them to death with your own strength. Like, your adjustment now made you weaker against us. So rather than us adjust to stop you, we're just going to hammer you home. And I look like at Gafford and I look at Lively and I go, they might score a 120 offensive rating and a half versus Denver. And if Denver adjusts, they might be able to bring them down to 115, 116. But does that mean Denver comes down? Whereas if you're going to roll Gafford out there, you just need to go out there and score 10 times in a row and go up to a 130. So at the half, you're up 8 points, and Dallas goes to halftime and goes, we got to adjust. We got to play a different style. We're going to take away some offense. So to me, that I think it's more likely that Nikola sees that lineup that's going to be so dynamic for Dallas and says, fine, I'm going to put him through the rim every single time, and I'm just going to score 50 points and get to the line and draw fouls on all of your guys.
Who is coming out of the East?
Man, that's a tough one. I think it's probably Boston, mostly because I think all these other teams are falling apart. Milwaukee seems to have lost their mojo. I still think that they have this like puncher's chance, but they just look like a team that doesn't believe in themselves, and that's a big part of it. And then I would love to pick my Philadelphia because I think they have the talent to do it, but this is my ultimate. I just think Embiid is not that guy. So I think that they should. Honestly, they have a perfect excuse, and I think that perfect excuse is harmful to them. I think Embiid needs to have no excuses because he's good enough to dominate. I mean, we saw him dominate. He's had a phenomenal year when he was healthy. He should dominate all these shorthanded teams and then get to Boston, and he should just dominate them as well, to be honest with you. But I think it'll be Boston.
Yeah. Probably Philly might have the best chance of beating Boston if they could make this series like a rock fight instead of like shooting 63s and trying to catch up with that. It's just that we've spent 10 minutes talking about conditioning and about availability, and it's really hard to overcome that when you're 30 already and you have no proof of anything other than that. So I feel bad for him because It's just that 7-3 guys are not that durable. It's really difficult, and it kind of makes sense. Yeah, I'm still sticking with Miami coming out of
Really,
East
Miami.
somehow. Yeah, like I have that. You know how high I am on coaches, like how much I trust the best coach in the league, and Spo is the best coach in the league, and I actually think that Michael Malone might be the second best playoff coach right now, which is a super high praise from my side, and it could be completely wrong. Of course, there are great coaches elsewhere as well. So I kind of think Spo will figure it out, and Jimmy will figure it out, and they will just shoot 80% from the 3-point line again for 3 series, and then find a way to get to the finals. But we'll see. We'll see. You just had a boring Boston take. What you gonna do?
What am I gonna do, man? What am I gonna do? I just the East sucks. The East sucks. That's really the truth of it. We talked all year about all these challengers, and I look and I'm like, Cleveland, come on.
They have one team that has like a winning percentage against the Eastern teams that's 1 percentage point better than Denver's, and that's Boston. Like they just have a million games against the Eastern teams, and then the second best team doesn't have 48 wins still. Like,
so dumb.
What are we talking about?
What are we doing?
Conferences just need to be abolished, man. It's just a thing that needs to happen, and I know it will never happen, because when I see the hellhole the NFL is, where you have 32 teams and then how many 18 games, you don't even play each team every year.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Okay, before we go to the last segment, I have one non-Nuggets question, and it's completely random. So, and this is I'm putting you on a spot. Name your top 5 favorite pop rock groups / singers of all time.
Pop rock?
Yeah. So don't go jazz. Like we can go jazz,
but it can be rock. It can be rock and, but it can just be like regular rock. Like pop rock to me sounds like
like rock and roll. But you can include Beatles. This is why I said pop rock. Like
my favorite bands or musicians in general.
Yeah, five.
But it can be like Bob Dylan can count here.
You can do.
Okay, so Bob Dylan and Elliott Smith, because I named my children after them. They obviously have a very special and important, role to play. I really loved Dr. Dog for a long time. They're a band that I've really liked. I like Nathaniel Rateliff a ton. He's probably on my list. And then, man, past that, let me see. Like, here's the thing: is when you say anytime you do favorite,
I'm putting you on a spot. Yeah,
what are you in the mood for?
It's like, but think about it like this: like you're 40, man. You're old.
Yeah.
So you've been listening.
But I'm changing. I tell you, I've made a strong effort to not be like stagnant in my music habits. Okay. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people, there's this. I saw a thing one time that was like, after 30, you stop finding new music. I've always been like, I'm always trying to find new music.
But there must be some bands you've been listening to for years, like waiting for their new album or something like that, or not?
I said Dr. Dog is like kind of like that for me. Man, I don't know if I can give you a fifth one. It's so tough. I'm like going through my music here trying to see it, because if I say one, I'll immediately regret it.
Yeah, this is why I didn't prepare you for this one.
I know I'll immediately regret it if I say a fourth one. Those ones have been, it's the same with like my favorite movies and stuff. You ask me my favorite movie and I'll say something that if you told me, do you want to watch it right now? I'd say no. I've already seen it enough or whatever. And that's how it is with musicians, right? Like even Bob Dylan, Elliott Smith, Dr. Dog, Nathaniel Rateliff. Those are ones that I still like have listened to my whole life or for years and still enjoy listening to. Everybody else, I got to be a little bit in the mood for it. I mean, I really like I like slow. I've told you this before. I don't like high energy. I like mellow energy. So like even Bon Iver is somebody that I really enjoy listening to. But again,
you get too much high energy during the day, so you need something to put you down.
Big Star. I like Big Star. Tallest Man on Earth. There's just giving you some of these out there. Those are guys I really like. And then there's just a lot of good songs too. I'm trying to think. Oh, Nick Drake. I probably could have put Nick Drake in there. That's it. I mean, obviously that's an old musician not making new music. He's no longer here, but Nick Drake has a lot of music I can just put on random and listen to all of them.
Yeah, you would be amazed with my list, because I have no bands that performed after 1991. So I'm like I'm like ancient music
What
kind
it,
of.
what is your, I mean, Beach Boy, I see Daniel Litch saying Beach Boys were my first band I ever listened to. I can trace all of my musical interests back to the Beach Boys and like chamber pop, and like now the music I listen to, like with vocal harmonies, is a big part of that. Unique chord progressions, a unique part of that. And then gospel music. My dad listened to gospel music a lot growing up, and I have, like, you think about Nathaniel Rateliff, there's a little folk and gospel to his style of sound. So there's roots there as well.
Yeah, I'm I just like the biggest of names, and I will just say the Beatles. They were before my time, but it's kind of like the Beach Boys, and then Metallica. I was really high on Metallica in the late '80s, early '90s, and then Michael Jackson. I have to say Michael Jackson is
Really?
yeah, I
That's
know.
funny.
I know that's crazy because it's like Madonna, but it's not Madonna. It's
No,
Michael
Michael
Jackson.
Jackson's great. I just can't picture you like in your house, just
I
a little thriller
listen,
going
man.
on.
I'm talking of me being alone in my car. What I'm gonna put on, like I'm gonna start with Billie Jean so many times. Like I just love Michael Jackson, and then I will do some Queen. I actually
Yeah,
discovered Queen later in my
yeah,
life because they were before my time, and it took time for me to discover them really. And then Sting. I think Sting is
yeah,
like a low energy kind of guy,
yeah.
something like you would like, probably maybe just too commercial for your taste.
This is yeah, look at me. I'm quite the hipster over here. 13 is one of my favorite songs. It's an S tier song. So shout out to Patrick for that one. And then I've been listening to a lot of country lately, to be honest with you, Miroslav.
I
I'm in a
love
country
country.
fit. I'm getting into a little bit of a country. I would say, you know, I don't know if we call it like full on country. It's not like I hate like anthem country, party rock country. I hate that genre, but John Vincent lately been listening to a little bit. So there's been some guys there. And
John
by the way,
Denver.
Zach Bryan and this type. And by the way, most people, D-Line always makes fun of me for my musical taste, always, and he swears that. So whenever I see people in the chat, they're like, "Ooh, I love those bands, Adam," or something like that. Now you can tell he's always trying to pick on me for my taste in different things. But you know what? I'm not alone.
We're running a bit longer today because I don't care about your time. So we'll take one short break and then we'll turn you into a host. Let's see how that looks like. Don't go anywhere. You can start.
Oh, I'm starting. Oh, that's right. I forgot about. I forgot
Yeah.
we did show prep.
Now I know you're not listening to me at all.
Welcome back to Serbian Corner. I'm your host now for this final segment. I'm joined today by my guest, Miroslav Chuk, who will be
Hello.
making his first pilgrimage ever to the United States of America, more specifically to Colorado, and more specifically than that, to Broomfield, Colorado, where he'll be staying with me and traveling into Denver to experience it all. This is sort of and I'm not even going to say sort of, this is the spiritual sequel to our trip to Serbia. We go out there, and Miroslav was a gracious host, showed us all around, was basically my servant for 7 days, just carrying my bags and showing us everything and taking us secret places. So now, Miroslav, it's my turn to carry your bags, chauffeur you around town, and show you the city. And I can't wait to do it. What's your excitement level now that we are 13 days away? I told you a while back, I didn't want to prepare. I don't like to think about a trip until it's about 2 weeks out because I don't like to get excited too far in advance. But here we are. What's your level of excitement?
So I'm normally a late packer, so I usually don't get too excited about trips until I start panicking because I realize I forgot to pack this and that and some documents I will probably need, and some letter of recommendation, whatever I need to pass the border or something like that. So yeah, it's it's getting I'm concerned by how I'm not thinking about enough hours during the day about the trip, about the stuff I'm supposed to do before that. But as I mentioned before, I'm mostly excited. I get connected with people and not places. So for me, the biggest thing here is to connect with many people I've had the chance to meet either in person, like you and the boys from the DNVR, or via internet. And I have had so many guests on my show, and many of them are from Denver, Colorado, or Colorado in general. So I will hopefully be able to shake their hands for the first time. But as we spoke before the show, there are so many important sports stuff in Denver. I should see, because it's one of the biggest sports cities in America. With all 4 major sports there and some smaller sports as well. So I really want to see the big venues, for instance, for Rockies, for Broncos, I guess, for the Rams, stuff like that.
I don't know if we'll get Rams, but I was thinking there's probably a Rapids event we could go to as well. The soccer, I think, would be the most jarring as a difference between the U.S. and in Serbia. I think here's how I think about it, though, Miroslav. Like, when I went out to Serbia, I felt a responsibility to bring everybody with me, meaning like bring all the people viewing that are never going to go to Serbia, or at least, not on that trip. It's like, okay, you're coming with me, and I'm going to show you what it's like through my eyes. And I kind of feel like this, what my hope is for your trip is that you have the same thing. All the Serbs, many of whom we've met, but many of whom I've never met before, they're in this chat or whatever, that you get to be their sort of champion and come out here and get to experience all the things. So I'm so curious to hear even what the Serbs want. Our trip was made so great for the reason you said. There wasn't tons of planning. It was really just go out there and try to experience as much as you can. And I think that's kind of our hope for you.
Yeah, and I do hope I'll be able to provide some content while I'm here. I have some talks with the state TV station RTS. I'm going to be on the RTS next Monday. So in 8 days, we're going to promote my trip and talk about the playoffs a bit. And hopefully, if I get enough access from the Nuggets, I'll be able to provide some insight from the arena, from the training, from the stuff like that. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed on that one.
How far
we'll hope for it.
Go there. Yeah.
Nikola might personally request that you are nowhere near within 100 yards of Ball Arena. So
it would be smart, to be honest.
No, it's good. And I love this. Daniel Lynch saying Miroslav needs to eat a burrito smothered with green chili. Absolutely on the list. By the way, Midori, who's a huge Nuggets fan, one of the all-time biggest, greatest Nuggets fans in the history, is already offered to take Miroslav out for a sushi dinner. She's Japanese, and so she wanted to take out to some Japanese food. So, and I say that to say pandering. Anybody that wants Miroslav to experience a specific place and wants to take him, you're welcome to volunteer that, whether it's a restaurant you own or some of this. We want Miroslav to meet people and to be immersed in Colorado and American culture in a way that he really walks away with something he's learned.
Yeah, I mean, I like food. I like free food as well. So it is what it is. We have a couple of super chats from Daniel Lynch. This super chat is designed to contribute to Miroslav's burritos smothered with green chili. Okay, yeah. I need to try those green chilies because you talk about them all the time.
You know where we're going to take people. Hold on real quick. We're Daniel Lynch. I don't know where I go if I'm trying to get a true Colorado meal, like Mexican food. Las Delicias to me is the place. There's ones all over Denver, but to me that is like authentic Colorado style Mexican food. I also love my Thornton place. Nobody knows of this one, Los Nogales, but I know that place to me is another Colorado style. Whether you like it or hate it, to me it's most Colorado.
And
you
then
will try it.
Pat Rasmussen.
That's what I can't believe. He said it. Look at that. We had it. I don't know if he typed this before, but it's Las Delicias. I'm telling you, it's my Daniel Lynch and I know, man.
Yeah, and what Pat mentioned that I should buy flares for the Rapids game. Yeah. Listen, Pat, I would like to come back to the States after this one, so maybe no flares for me. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how big on flares you guys are here.
We got to get you to post. Oh man, look at this. The Northside location. Daniel Lynch, how have I never seen you there? This used to be my home. I used to be at that Northside one all the time. It's like I honestly was. Me and Daniel Lynch. I always love when you meet somebody who has like the same experiences, like, oh yeah, I used to go to that place and do this. You should post though your like Venmo or something. So because that, as much as these are very nice super chats, these are going to Brandon Spano. Like, I don't know a way to funnel this directly to Miroslav. So we might have to have you like post your Venmo and people can give you little donations for you to experience something very specific.
Yeah. Well, I'll put the PayPal in the description of the show.
There you go. Everybody deposit to Miroslav, but let him know what it's for. Say, hey, here is what this is for. Go with God. So real quick, just to tell people, we want to obviously get you on the shows. We're going to be at the bar. You're going to go practice and shoot arounds. We want him to see our Rockies game to know true pain. We want him to see an Avs game at the DNVR bar, most likely, maybe even a Rapids game. And then the Buffs, the CU Buffs have the spring game while he's out here. He probably won't be able to get inside the stadium for it, but we'll go to the tailgate. The DNVR throws a tailgate, and it'll just be fun. Like American-style tailgating is its own like beast. So I think you'll have fun with that.
Is there going to be any beer pong?
At the tailgate, there'll probably be some beer pong if that's what you want to do. A little beer pong. Is beer pong? Is that not a Serbian thing?
It's not a thing. It's not.
No way.
But I do watch, a lot of how do you call it? American Pie movies.
Yeah, little red Solo cups, little flip cup. Maybe we'll play.
We do know of it. Yeah, we do know. Of it.
Oh man, this stuff like this is what I'm so excited because that's not something I would have thought about. Like to show you, we would have just naturally started playing beer pong at some party or something, and so now I'm excited for that moment.
We should play basketball.
You want to play basketball?
Yeah, I want to. I want to get exhausted on the altitude. Yeah, I want to feel that.
So I wanted to take you to like Rocky Mountain National Park. We'll go to Red Rocks, of course, maybe Buffalo Bill's grave. There are places for you to have to hike. Maybe it's only 1 mile, but you'll get to, if you're at 10,000 feet and you go for a 1 mile hike, you'll feel it.
I can do 1 mile.
Feel it a lot.
I can do 1 mile. Well, hopefully.
Nobody knows about this. The way Miroslav walks, man, 1 mile, that might take us 8 hours. You and Dev, if we sent you and Dev out on a 1 mile hike, we'd have to send a rescue team like 14 hours into it.
I was trying to be a good host to Dev. I didn't want to leave him behind. Come on, man.
I've been with Dev multiple times when you're like say you're running to catch a plane and you're late. He won't speed up. That guy's like, no, man, this is the pace I walk at. I'm not walking fast.
Oh, and I want to kick D-Line's ass in pickleball because he's always bragging about that one. And I have never played pickleball. No, I've never played it, but I'm definitely going to beat him. So I know he's not watching, so I can say whatever I want.
That's funny, man. He's really good though at paddle sports. He actually is really good at it. We're definitely taking you to Illegal Pete's. We might even do a meetup at Illegal Pete's or something like that. Burger joints for sure. Miroslav's going to cook. I can't wait to take him grocery shopping. Just even that kind of stuff, I think will be interesting to see.
Yeah, we won't be buying any guns, by the way. I'm not a gun person. Just groceries.
Well, maybe 4 days into being in the U.S., you become a gun person. You come back with just 6 shooters in each pocket, just ready to go. Yeah. What else, man? So, I'm hosting. I keep forgetting. I'm waiting for you. So what else are you hoping to get out of this trip?
I really hope we'll be able to provide some cool content, and I hope this will help people from Serbia get to know Denver better, because you guys are doing a bad job of promoting Denver's sites and stuff like that, because your main audience is in Denver, so why would you talk about Denver all the time?
True.
But you have this second part of your fans that would really like to see more of Denver, and it is something that I didn't expect to say at like 5 years ago, when I really started to get deeply into the Denver Nuggets fandom. I had no idea that would lead me into actually coming to Denver. It wasn't in my view. So this just shows you how amazing this voyage has been in the last 9 years. To be perfectly honest, for the last 7 years for me, because first couple of seasons I was like, oh, there's some cute stats from this Sombor guy over there in Denver, but it's not real because everybody's hurt out there, so this is why he has to play. And then after a certain point in time, you just realize that it is going places. So yeah, it's going full circle now with this trip, and I hope it's not the last one. I hope it is something we'll be able to do in the future too.
No question about it, man. No question about it. I think you'll experience. I just think the U.S. is so in Colorado and the West and everything. It's so unique. Like, I've traveled a lot of places. I've been a lot of places. I don't say this like lightly or just because I'm like super proud of the U.S. or whatever. It's just very different. The culture affects the way that your experience is by so much that there'll be a million little things that you'll look at, some that you'll love and think this is the best thing ever and it's amazing, and some that you're going to be like, how the hell is this possible? It's such a big, successful country. How is it this absurd in these ways? And that's what makes America America.
Yeah, it makes America America. I wonder how loud I'm going to be in Denver, because I might be loud, in a bar environment. I just want to copy you guys being in Serbia, being the loudest persons, around. But I guess it just depends on the level of alcohol intoxication at that point. I'm not a big drinker, so I might get really freaky because you have to have a shot with everybody that offers you.
Oh, we were drinking some Rocky in the bar last night. Some people were buying some shots for the takeover. It was a great time. I think my favorite thing, just to pull behind the curtain, Miroslav and I are texting the other day, or maybe we were talking actually on a Zoom or something, and I somehow we ventured into politics very, very briefly, just dipped a toe, and I told Miroslav, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break us there. And Miroslav laughs and says, we're two 40-year-old men, or two men in our 40s. We're going to talk politics. And so,
what the fuck are we going to talk about?
What are we going to do? Come on, it's going to happen. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, of course. I hope when are the elections in November? Maybe I can swing the elections. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh no.
Okay, we're just going way off the subject. Thank you everybody for spending 67 or whatever minutes with us today. Next week it's gonna be a big one. It's gonna be the show number 90. So this is why I'll try to find a special guest for that one, not like this one today.
Not like this show, yeah.
It's just a regular show today. So thank you, Adam, for spending a piece of your Sunday with me, and then we'll talk real soon, extensively. I'm sure of that. Go Nuggets.
Go Nuggets.
No.
Oh no. There it is. It's hard to do the controls. Nobody knows how hard